but there's a strong tradition of kids' scary shows, anthology shows. So stick with me here. It's called Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe?
I hate the title.
In 2017, Universal Studios announced the birth of a new shared universe of monster movies, bringing their classic horror icons into the contemporary franchise film landscape. But after the critical and financial failure of its first installment, the project was indefinitely abandoned. Now, in 2025, the powers that be have called upon one pulp horror devotee and one snarky film critic to unearth the concept. I'm Dylan Roth.
And I'm Dalton DeShane.
Are you afraid of the dark universe?
Welcome back to Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe, the podcast where we attempt to resurrect Universal's failed cinematic universe of monster movies, one pitch at a time. I don't have anything to go off because this is a mystery episode. I am your
episodic host, Dylan Roth.
And I am your $7.99 a month for the first year, and then we're gonna bump it up to $12.99, but $15.99 without ads, and $19.99 in 4K quality. Host Dalton DeShane.
See, I was kind of trying to tee you up for serialized host.
That would have worked too.
Yeah.
But welcome back to the Dark Universe. We have been, as you know, if you're a regular listener, in chaos mode because we have reached the finale of our big Death's Door project.
And we are revving up for the conclusion of all the work we've been doing for the past 3 years.
Yes. And lo and behold, in the middle of everything, we get an email from our head of streaming. Now, longtime listeners may remember that sometime, I believe it was the beginning of last year.
It was like January 23. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Our
24?
guest today came to us with a pitch for a television series based on the Michael J. Fox film Teen Wolf. And we were so taken aback by the pitch and all of the spin-offs that it created, including Teen Mummy and, of course, Lady Bufula, that we put our guest in charge of the Dark Universe streaming project, our DU Plus cinematic universe. And since then, well, before then, we already had the David and Davidson series by guest Branson Reese.
That's seasonal or annual or something like that.
Did we add
it's a perennial.
another? I feel like we added another series to
Another series too? Well, we have
we've had a couple Peacock streaming musicals. We had Into the Woods. We had Snow White, A Tale of Terror.
Those are some of that are on the studio mandates that we've done on the bonus pod.
We added those to the streaming
Oh,
lineup.
I remember The Covenant is a series.
The Covenant was a series by Lindsay
prestige,
Kelk.
like 8-episode season that Lindsay Kelk pitched us.
That's right.
That was something of a rogue project because
Yes.
really Joseph Fink has the real green light privileges for our television project.
Yes, let's bring him in. We have no idea what we're going to talk about today. Joseph has wanted to keep things a bit of a mystery, a bit of a secret. So this is a blind meeting
Yeah, it's
for
a
us.
very strange process because this is the very first episode of the show we've ever done where we, Dalton and I, have prepared nothing.
Yes.
There's usually a lot of homework for us coming into the show, and today, nothing.
It's honestly been a relief. Today's guest is the co-creator of the acclaimed podcast, Welcome to Night Vale, as well as I Only Listen to the Mountain Goats, Alice Isn't Dead, and Unlicensed. He is also a New York Times best-selling author of books such as Alice Isn't Dead, The Halloween Moon, Welcome to Night Vale, It Devours, The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home, and The First 10 Years. Please welcome back to the Dark Universe, Joseph Fink. How are you today?
I am doing okay. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
We're always pleased to have you.
It's great that I'm the prepared one, as I have a single Word document with 5 titles written in it, and that is what I have prepared for you today.
And that's all we need. Now,
Wasn't Lost pitched with less?
Yeah.
With Lost, wasn't it like somebody said I had to do Castaway, and Damon Lindelof is like, I have an idea for that. Let's go figure it out in the room.
Yeah, it was. They just kind of made it up.
And that's
as they
one
went.
of the best shows ever. So we're off to what I'm saying is that all that we need, and our shows will be as good, if not better, than Lost.
That's right.
Yeah, and also we're going to have J.J. Abrams develop all these, so
Okay.
it's going to be good.
I don't know what he's up to these days anyway.
Duster coming to Max.
That's right. Duster.
I've seen the first couple eps. I think I'm under embargo, but
I want to know because my boy Josh Holloway is in that.
Yeah.
We had a meeting once with his fiction podcast guy because we were trying to pitch Unlicensed before we sold it to Audible. Available now, the first 2 seasons on Audible, season 3 coming out in May.
Nice.
We took it around Hollywood to see if any, TV or movie companies wanted to make a podcast, which none of them did. But J.J. Abrams had a podcast guy whose like mandate was to make podcasts. And it became clear that he hadn't really listened to any podcasts, and he didn't really know what any of them were. And then as far as I know, J.J. Abrams' company never made a podcast. So I guess that whole thing didn't work out. But
podcast, the one
we got to
medium
visit his office
where everyone has heard of it, but a lot of people don't really know what it is that we do over here. I don't really know what we do over here.
Well, the thing is that it's a medium, not a genre, right? So it's being reinvented all the time by folks such as our guest. But now we're moving into the world of television, where everything is pretty much figured out. There's not a whole lot of new stuff to do.
Well, a few of these I think will fit neatly into some existing categories, but I think I have a couple that might stretch some new limits.
Yeah, and to be clear, we don't want to relegate you just to streaming. I know sometimes that can be disappointing to a creator. If you are here to pitch us films, Joseph, now we are happy to, boost you up to the big leagues with us here in the Hollywood, theatrical.
Yeah, we're talking about
division.
We're the heads of a multi-billion-dollar film franchise.
Yeah, for
so
sure at this point.
There's really anytime we can come in and give you the rub. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we'll do a couple favors for you.
Yeah.
Well, so you put me in charge of your TV program, so I figured I should probably come up with some TV shows.
Mm-hmm. We appreciate that.
So I have 5 to pitch you today. Now,
okay.
I would say that 2 of these are a little more solid than the other 3. So I'm going to leave it up to you in what order you'd like me to give these to you. If you'd like to start with the more solid and then kind of rapid fire the less solid ones, or if you want to work up to maybe the more solid ideas.
Let's sandwich it. Let's start with one of your solid ones. We'll do a couple of the murky ones, and then we'll close strong.
We got to make sure that the opening
just like
and
a
the closing
season of television.
Go.
The premiere and the finale are all that matters, really. Do you get people to watch the season?
And then maybe one of the middle pitches will be big enough for sweeps week,
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's start with the first one I came up with. Now, I don't know. I listen to so many podcasts that I'm always a year behind in all of them. So I'm not 100% up to date where things are.
That's okay. None of our guests
if any of this
are.
You'll have to let me know if this conflicts with anything.
Of course.
But I would like to present to you Dr. Frankenstein, MD.
Okay.
Love this. Great start.
Pilot episode, we have Dr. Frankenstein. This is Modern Hospital. It's played, I would say, pretty realistic. My wife and I have been very into The Pit lately. I don't know if either of you are watching that.
I was just going to say, this feels very timely.
It's the time for this is the time for some heavy, intense medical drama.
Medical dramas are back, baby. Wolf Howl.
So Dr. Frankenstein, he is from the Frankenstein family, which is a little bit of a shame for him, the kind of the connotations of what happened with that family, but he's a modern day doctor. He's following the science. He's, doing the thing. He's good. He's caring. He's a good leader. And then it is revealed at the end of the episode. He takes off his shirt, maybe. I don't know how we do it. And we find out that he is not only Dr. Frankenstein, he is also a Frankenstein's monster. He has been brought back to life, and he is trying to hide that from his coworkers and deal with the struggle of his body, which is not always holding together. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of have both halves of these. We have just sort of a procedural medical drama.
Yeah.
And then we have a man dealing with the ramifications of his family's history and his own falling apart body. We might also get into some stuff where he is sometimes approached on the side by people asking him to bring family members back to life, and he has to decide whether to meddle in such things. So this is my first pitch for you. I present Dr. Frankenstein, MD.
I love it. I think it almost mirrors something like a Dr. House, MD, in which it was a medical procedural, but also he had like his Vicodin addiction, right? Like there was this through line of him having his own personal problems.
A procedural built around someone with a dark secret is a tried and true format, and we have our own special supernatural twist on it. I'm thinking about, like, there was that one year, I think it was 2014, where Fox launched 3 different seemingly boilerplate procedurals that were actually crazy, zany genre shows. Gotham, Sleepy Hollow, and the one that did not last long, I think, was called Almost Human, starring Carl Urban and Michael Ealy. It was a sci-fi show about a robot. This, for a while, was the way to get your interesting idea made, was just how do you pitch it as a cop show or a hospital show? And so I think that this is a great way to jump into this. I think I like the specifics of the setup as well, because you have someone who is... There's doctors are kind of infamous for having sort of a god complex, especially surgeons. So let's say he's a surgeon, right? Now, this is someone who has to sort of present themselves as a master of death, right? As someone who can fight back. This is someone who has literally, in a sense, mastered death. But no one can know, and it also isolates him further, because if we're going to do a hospital drama, we also have to have the steamy will they, won't they romance.
Well, and
here you have the extra thing is, if someone gets too close to him, they're going to find out.
Well, I feel like the way you reveal the Frankenstein is in a sex scene, right? That's the way that I think a modern TV show would do it, is the woman takes off his shirt and sees the seams and it's like, what happened? You know, that's what they do. Isn't that how Lee Pace in Halt and Catch Fire in season 1, she like takes his shirt off and he's covered in scars and everything? Like, that's...
I have not seen that show.
In fact, wait, is Lee Pace in our dark universe?
No, not yet.
Lee Pace as Dr. Frankenstein, MD? What do we think of that?
That would be cool. What do you think of that, Joseph?
I listen, Lee Pace is very good. I don't know if you want to stick with the idea of Frankenstein is a very big, like a Frankenstein monster is very big, because what just popped into my head is, I don't know if either of you are watching Reacher, but the man who is large.
Season, yeah.
Oh, yes.
The man who is large.
Oh, gosh, I can't remember large
so there
man's
is the
name.
man. I don't remember his name either. He's huge.
Yes,
so if you wanted a big man, I think watching that guy be a doctor would be super interesting, because
Alan
he is
Richardson.
so huge.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, and it would be the kind of thing where, like, just the visual by itself, the idea that you think of this as because Lee Pace is a slender Tom Hiddleston shaped fellow.
Listen, Lee Pace is absolutely a better actor than Mr. Huge, but I do think there's maybe something visually interesting about like Mr. Huge having to do like delicate surgery.
Delicate surgery by a man with a massive neck. That's something that television has not done before. And
That's true.
I'm for it. I like this casting a lot.
Well, I like the idea of, because he's undead in a way, and he's a Frankenstein, there should be a little bit of mad scientist in him, right?
Yes,
where there's like,
he wants to try experimental things, but he can't reveal how he knows how certain things
and
work.
He can't get the hospital in trouble, or like he's always got his superiors like, you're a wild card,
Okay, I have a thought. So you know how Daredevil's thing in the comics and sometimes on television is that he's a lawyer, and when the law can't get things done, then he'll go out as Daredevil.
Yeah.
And he'll try to right the wrongs super legally, right?
And spoiler alert, the law almost never gets it done.
Yes. So what if one of the things, doesn't have to be every week, we don't have to get him out of the hospital all the time, but one of the things that our Dr. Frankenstein does is when medical science cannot get the job done, then he will embark into the world secretly and make arrangements with the patients or whatever secretly to be able to do some mad sciences to heal them, but always at great personal risk, because if he's found out, he'll lose his medical license, his secrets will be exposed, and of course, there's also the reputation of the family to be considered, where he'll be playing into exactly what everyone expects of him.
That's a good mid-season or season finale, I think, kind of storyline. I like the idea of early on him doing experiments on himself to see if they'll work on the patient. Like he's got an experiment, or like giving himself a disease to see how it affects himself.
Maybe that's how he died. Maybe what happened was, so he's just a guy, he's a descendant of Caroline Clairvaux or whatever, right?
Yes, yeah.
And he has no interest in this Frankenstein stuff. But then he gets his medical license, but he starts to get in deep about the idea of he finds there's some patient he can't save. And the only thing he can think of is, my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother could have saved her. What? I'm in the future. Why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And so we've established in our canon, and it's been played with a lot in fan works in the Discord, the Diary of Caroline Frankenstein, which I introduced in The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
As how our Claude Frollo, the archdeacon, reanimates Quasimodo. If he gets his hands on something like this as a family heirloom, and then he does experiments, but he doesn't want to experiment on anybody else, does it on himself. In so doing, he dies and resurrects himself, which gives him a unique twist, right? Because all the other Frankenstein monsters, they were resurrected by other people. He did this to himself.
I think he does it to himself accidentally.
Yes.
He's experimenting with the lightning, and like trying to harness it. He gets struck. And in his final moments puts himself in the contraption, and ends up reanimating himself. And that's how he knows it works.
Yes.
But I think it has to be like an accidental death, like that he is forced to use on himself. So now he's like, this is a failure of his in a way.
And he has to, and like any doctor's failures, it is something that, like, well, unfortunately in the field of medicine, there are a lot of failures that get sort of very, very carefully swept under the rug. But it's, I think it's a really good hook to put his character on, that he is sort of has to keep what is sort of his greatest achievement a secret, because it's also shameful.
It's shameful. And I think at this point in our timeline, Victor Frankenstein and Quasimodo are famous.
Yeah.
They are well known as members of the Dark Legion. So I think it's not just shame, but it's also he has to try to keep things under wraps, because once people find out that he's related to Frankenstein, they're like, well, can't you save him using magic? Can't you call the Dark Legion? Can't you do the same thing?
Right. It creates a whole bunch of new pressures for him.
Yeah, and he has to be like, no, I don't do that. I've never talked to them. I don't know them.
Yeah,
they
it's Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly. It's Frankenstein.
Joseph, what's your read on this? You have any thoughts?
I like all this. There's also, if you wanted to go this direction, you don't have to, because it depends on how interconnected with the rest of the Dark Universe you want him to be. But he could also serve as sort of the Dark Universe is like that, the kind of CD vet that treats you when you get a gunshot wound in the mob.
Okay.
Like,
if you
get injured in a way that you can't explain to a regular doctor without getting in trouble, maybe he has a backroom clinic.
Right. You've heard of a mob doctor.
Fixes up
this
monsters.
is a monster doctor.
The vet for werewolves. Yeah.
But that adds another
vet for
thing.
Werewolves, I think, is its own show.
Okay. But this adds another wrinkle to what we have.
We're already adding spin-offs. Yeah.
Okay, this has another wrinkle to what we have, which is that this is maybe a season 2 development, right? Maybe our show begins before like Cassie Fawkes' book is published and the world knows about monsters, and before he reconnects. Maybe season 1 ends with him reconnecting with his family.
Sure.
Right? And then we have this new thing where he is simultaneously doing regular surgery at the hospital and also moonlighting as someone who the magical community can go to when they have either regular, non-supernatural, or supernatural ailments, right?
We could get some guest starring roles for our minor characters, who pop in for subplots and things.
But even if it's not like Gwen Conliffe coming in or something like that, when there is when a werewolf needs medical attention, like Joseph was saying, where do they go? Because it might be public knowledge that a werewolf wouldn't need medical attention because they heal really fast. But you know what I'm talking about.
They could,
right?
if it was a Quicksilver.
If there's some sort of magical problem, right? He's not a magician. He's not a wizard, right? He's a doctor. But werewolves, other kinds of magic people, they don't feel like they can. They can't necessarily come to the hospital. They need someone that they can trust with their secrets.
Dr. Frankenstein,
right? So there's potential for stories throughout the progression of our own saga as well.
And I think, but balancing that with the human medical stuff, and it's the double life aspect, right?
You gotta,
I think that makes it interesting.
Every episode should have a regular hospital case and a supernatural case. And like any other procedure, and then we have to have an ensemble of other doctors and supporting cast who can be moving this stuff around, and they have to be thematically resonant with each other, but not necessarily have a plot connection. In fact, maybe they rarely have a plot connection. And then like in those X-Files episodes where you don't realize it's a mythology episode until 20 minutes in, it's like, whoa, our two fucking cases are the same fucking case, which is always satisfying, but only if you don't always see it coming.
Okay, I feel like we have a good handle on this one. Also, he is addicted to Vicodin. We'll just throw that in as well.
And also
Being
he's
dead
really
hurts,
mean.
yeah.
Well, the one other thing I want to say is I think there is the one, of course, female doctor that he has the will they won't they with, and she's the only one that knows his secret because he shows her the stitching in the first episode.
I think that's too early to show her, but we don't have to go into that detail right now.
Yeah. But the season finale, it's her that is dying. That forces him to go outside the hospital, and take her to the castle, or whatever, to try to save her with extra medical means.
He has to perform a legit resurrection to get her back.
Yeah.
I think she should also end up a Frankenstein's monster.
I think we might have to do that.
Monster in love.
I think the end of the first season is like she dies in something, and then it's him having to commit to the idea, like, all right, it's time to go back to the old me. and like then the season premiere is sort of our stunt episode where like Victor and Cassie are in it, and they go to the castle, to the original lab to resurrect her. And now they both have the secret, right?
And then maybe eventually they get married and she becomes the bride.
We were always teasing brides of Frankenstein who aren't quite the bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Oh, would you like to give this character a name, by the way? A first name?
Oh, I didn't have a first name. Do you have any suggestions?
His first name is Doctor.
He's named for famous for great animation director Pete Docter.
Yes, Pete
with
Docter.
An E.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking we probably want to stay away from names that start with V. But something that sounds kind of like
actually, yeah.
Desmond
Do we want to make him like Dr. Vance Frankenstein?
Ooh,
Vance is pretty good. Dr. Vance Frankenstein. Vinny Frankenstein sounds a little bit. Vincent's Frankenstein is cool because it's sort of a Vincent Price thing.
I like Vincent Frankenstein. Vance immediately makes me think of J.D. Vance.
Oh, that's true.
And, yeah.
That name's cursed now. But I do like Vincent Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Because then we get to pay homage to Dalton's personal hero.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we his father, we'll see a portrait of him and it's a picture of Vincent Price.
That would be cute.
All right, so we're gonna green light that.
There we go. It's on the slate.
Okay, great.
Coming
this
this
the easiest
fall.
pitch of my life.
Yes.
Okay, so next, this is the one I came up with. We started a little late, so I did some dishes, and while I was doing the dishes, I came up with this one. I've been trying to think for a couple days about because when Disney first did their we're going to do a bunch of Marvel TV shows. One of the ones they did was a reality show about the effect that Marvel has had in people's lives.
Yes, I remember
they
that.
did a reality show. And so I'm I think we should be doing a reality show of some kind.
Okay.
I don't want to just copy that idea of people who the Dark Universe has affected. We can maybe do that too. I'm less interested in that. What I've come up with instead is called a Graveyard Smash. Now, it's a party planning reality show in which every week it's a different kind of event being themed around a Dark Universe creature. You have a mummy bat mitzvah, you have a Dracula themed wedding, and we have our wedding planner who gets to meet with the people who are Dark Universe super fans and they want their event themed, and then the person delivers a surprise they walk in and, oh my God, their wedding reception is Dracula's castle and it's perfect. So that's a Graveyard Smash.
No, I love that.
I like that a lot. And why wouldn't we try it? It costs nothing.
Yes, I think the idea of Dark Universe reality shows had never occurred to me, Joseph, but you've really unlocked something in my brain. I think a Graveyard Smash is great. We can also, there's such, it doesn't even have to be one person. There should be the decorator, and then there's also the outfitter, the person who finds the perfect Bride of Frankenstein dress.
Right. We have a whole team that we follow every week on the show, and then of course they can have their drama. They're fucking Vanderpump shit.
Yeah.
And
you've got Bridezillas that
yes.
are, but you've also got, the Sweet 16s, the Quinceañeras,
If we want to go further, we can sort of in the costuming of the characters on the show, sort of code them as different Universal monsters. We don't ever make it text, but that's sort of one of the ways we theme the show. is that we kind of give them like, this is our this is our vampire, this is our mummy, this is our right. It's just in our casting, right? We cast towards certain sort of like to pass the silhouette test in the same way, you know. Now give it a little extra universal horror dash of flavor.
I also think if people turn out to like Dark Universe reality shows, what about the universe's next top monster? A reality competition where people have to come up with the next great movie monster.
Right.
Because we live in an era that doesn't have too many new monsters. We don't do horror monsters much anymore. It's been a long time since a Freddy Krueger. Joseph, on your last episode, we talked about the Grabber, which is maybe one of our newest, additions. We'll see if the Grabber has the longevity of a
Hard
franchise.
Eyes. The Hard Eyes killer from Hard Eyes is definitely going to be a big horror convention costume for the next 12 months. But is it going to have? I
did the Universal Halloween Horror Nights here in LA, and they had a bunch of guys dressed as the Grabber jumping out at people. The Grabber was all over there.
There's Grabbers now, the whole Grabber family. But like a competition with maybe teams of like writers and designers who have to not only design the monster, but give it a backstory. Yeah. And then it's sort of like a reality version of our show where then week after week, they sort of like pitch a monster and maybe they're even given specific assignments. Like, okay, your monster in this setting, how does it,
Well, I think this is a thing where you want to do a process where you start out with, let's say, 8 competitors who each come in with an idea, right? And these are people who have to sort of be, these are people who want to be producers, right?
Sure.
Which means they have to be able to get their fingers in various different pies, but not necessarily a master of anything. In each episode, they meet a different challenge that is sort of a step on the production of an idea. First, they have to pitch the concept of their monster, and the person with the weakest monster gets eliminated by our panel of judges, which will include the 3 of us. And and then the next one is like, okay, now we're going into design. So now the next one is they have to team up with they have to like draft they do like a quick fire challenge at the beginning of the episode that allows them to pick the order at which they'll choose the concept artist that's been brought in to work with, and then they have to do a team up activity with them designing the monster. Weakest design gets cut. 6 left. Now we're pitching a specific story, or we're doing different kinds of design, and now we're casting, blah, blah, blah. And when you finally get to the end, you've done essentially the whole first steps of pre-production for a movie. And the grand prize is you get a 1-hour Dark Universe special based on your idea. Kind of like, do y'all remember Stan Lee's superhero reality show?
Right. This is kind of basically the horror version of that. Which is kind of
like that. And at the end, they said that the person who won would get a Sci-Fi Channel original movie, but all it is that person ended up getting to appear in a cameo as their superhero in an already planned sci-fi movie.
Yeah, we would not.
We would do better than that.
We would do better than that.
Actual movie.
Remember Stan Lee's Stripperella? We don't talk about this enough.
Well, this is the first time we've talked about it in quite some time.
When Stan Lee invented a superhero very late in life called Stripperella,
it's very much
superhero.
It's very much a dirty old man type thing.
Was that part of the elder abuse, or was that before?
No, this would have been long before.
That was before the elder abuse. Okay.
Anyway, so that's fun. That one's right off the top of your dome there, Dalton.
We've got a reality wing now.
There we go. Let's keep that.
I mean, you also can do if you have like the cake baker for a Graveyard Smash can have a spin-off that's the you got to have a baking competition that's themed around the Dark Universe. And the great news is I think Paul Hollywood will show up for any shit if you pay him enough. So you could definitely have Paul Hollywood judge that.
Paul Hollywood Horror Nights. Yes.
Oh, that's perfect.
I got to have my picture taken with Megan. It was the best night of my life.
Awesome.
Incredible. Once we get reality going, we could basically have a whole streaming service because those things are dirt cheap. And they fill hours of content.
People are trying to subscribe to fewer things. Why don't we just have them raise the price of Peacock for us?
You're right. And
why don't we do an OTT?
Yeah, and that goes straight to us.
Yes.
All right, so we've got some reality, both competitions and party planning.
We should name the monster competition show.
Yeah, because we have the Graveyard Smash. I think the universe's next top monster.
Oh, that's right. You did name it. Yeah, universe. The Dark
Universal's next top monster.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's
there
perfect.
we go.
All right, Joseph, what's next?
side note, talking about Stanley, I have a friend who made a living for years. Used to be that like legendary comic book artists, you could just kind of drive over to their house and buy original work from them.
Yeah.
And so he would buy and sell those. He has, I want to say, like the largest collection of Howard the Duck original art in the world.
Cool.
And he sort of supports himself mainly by selling those just like one by one whenever he needs money.
Wow.
So yeah, you used to be able to just like show up to some old artist's house and be like, how much for a page, and hand over like $300 and drive away, and then like turn it around and sell it for $500 in a couple months.
They got to clear out the space, I'm sure.
Yeah. So just anyone looking for a new job, just start showing up at comic book artists' houses and see what happens.
Shit, I was gonna do that anyway.
Yeah, you would love to.
Let me get on a plane to Brazil, where all of my favorite comic book artists live.
We have to stop Dylan from just showing up at his heroes' houses and asking for things. But
yep.
Next up, I've been rewatching The X-Files. I have a new podcast people can check out called The Best Worst, where me and my wife watch the IMDb worst rated and best rated episodes of classic TV shows.
Oh, it's a terrific idea.
It's been a lot of fun, and we did it for X-Files, and then that kind of just turned into me rewatching the X-Files. And I feel like I just want to do the X-Files. So this is the Prodigium files. It's called Prodigium, right? I'm getting that name right. Okay. So it's the Prodigium files. We have our two agents, and it's a kind of a case of a week thing with, you got your what's the word for it? You got your big plot episodes as well. My thought is, rather than, it doesn't make sense to have a skeptical person within Prodigium. That's not really their vibe. So I think that our mismatched pair is a spy who has been sent to spy on Prodigium and get info out of it. And their cover is as an agent, and they're paired up with a person who is loyal to Prodigium and doesn't know that the other person is a spy. And so they become close friends. They are working on cases together, but one of them has this terrible secret that they are spying, and maybe they start to doubt the justness of their work and the way that they're betraying their friend. I didn't 100% cast this out, but I do feel like it depends on if you want to have a romance between they're kind of I think their ages would work for a romance. But we don't have to do the romance way. I'm thinking these are both people I've worked with who are both incredible actors. James Urbaniak is somebody who's been in million things. You've seen it. Look up a picture of him if you don't know who he is, and you will recognize him. He's been in a million things. I think he's ready to be a series lead.
Okay.
I think he'd be
I love James Urbaniak.
Incredible.
My introduction to him would have been back at the Venture Brothers.
Yeah. He starred in that. So I guess he has been a series lead. I take that back.
But, a live action,
but not on camera,
lead.
right?
Yeah.
He hasn't been an on camera.
Not on camera.
Series.
I had dinner with him recently, and he was telling the story of one of his very first roles, which was a shoe salesman with a foot fetish in Sex and the City. In an episode that was like, he was like, not to brag, but TV Guide called it the third best sitcom episode ever made.
Wow. You know what? Speaking of people who did interesting things with the podcasting forum, getting on with James Urbaniak was a really interesting podcast that felt different from everything else. So shout out to him as well.
I can say as a writer, he is an absolute joy to write for. He's one of those guys. He is maybe the best person I've ever met in terms of interpreting a monologue, just finding stuff in there that you didn't know was there. So I think definitely him. And then speaking of people who I've written monologues for who are incredible, Jessica Nicole of Fringe and The Good Doctor and my show Alice Isn't Dead. I think maybe we pair up Jessica Nicole and James Urbaniak on this is my thought.
And it's interesting. So this would not be the first time that Jessica Nicole has been in an X-Files-esque type thing. She was a regular on Fringe, but not part of the leading pair.
No. And Fringe started out as a pretty direct ripoff of X-Files and then kind of started doing its own thing.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Now, I think, so do we have James be our Prodigium loyal and Jessica be the spy? do we think?
I think maybe that's the move. And here's why. James is very good at people you don't quite trust. And Jessica is so likable and trustworthy. And so I think it's maybe a more interesting move
to do the reverse.
To play them against
to put the guy who's a little bit shifty and make him the loyal one, and put the person who just is instantly likable and make them the traitor.
Yeah, and we could even have that be like sort of those like most well-schooled viewers will see it coming at the end of the first episode or the first act of the first episode, but we set up the idea that we don't know which one of them is the spy. Like we get from a third party some sort of like whispers that there's a spy in the mix, and so you spend the first episode trying to feel out which one of them it might be. A viewer watching, who's just kind of casually going through will probably assume that it's James Urbaniak, but someone who is like, that's too easy, they're going to swerve us, right? And that will be a way for us to establish what kind of show it's going to be.
And we go against James's type by making him the trustworthy one.
Yeah.
But we go with his type by still making him a foot fetishist. And so that will be a major part of his character.
Yes.
But I one thing that I think, we talked about back in our very first episode, we wanted to make Prodigium mysterious. We didn't want to know too much about the inner workings, which I think is probably why we've avoided something like a Prodigium show before. But one of the fun things about the X-Files is how little Mulder and Scully know, right, about like the larger things at play inside the FBI beyond their pay grade. And I think that can be sort of the case with these agents where like Jessica comes in as a spy, but is frustrated to learn that like her partner doesn't know shit about like, and she can't get into the higher ups. And so her method is she kind of maybe like coaxes James into his own kind of treason by being like, don't you want to know more about what we're doing? Like, they owe you more information. You do so much work for them. Like, we should poke around and like see what we can find out.
He's been a little bit miffed about being passed up for a promotion, but he's like, I'm gonna be the bigger man. I'm not gonna worry about it. And she picks that wound, right?
Yeah.
And builds resentment as like a good spy will play the different parties against each other. So she's picking at this resentment, getting him to sort of turn. And I think what will be interesting is over the course of maybe a season, maybe longer, James Urbaniak's character actually does become embittered against Prodigium, while Jessica's character is kind of starting to drink the Kool-Aid. Like maybe their aims begin as different, but as we get to know them each better and as they get to learn more about themselves, spend more time out in the world, their perspectives gradually shift.
I think I might be asking too much to say that that she becomes a Prodigium. Like, because Prodigium's not a good agency, right?
No,
like,
but maybe she gets a whiff of the power that those people have, and she thinks, I can do something with this.
I was going to say maybe she... go ahead.
How about this? Let's say, like, because they're doing cases of the week, right? That's most of this show is Monster of the Week stuff. So they're helping people in some way, right? Like they're a part of Prodigium that's solving problems that do need to be solved. And so I do think that Jessica's character could come to an idea of like maybe, in the same way that the FBI as a whole is not good in the X-Files. Like the people above Skinner basically are all bad people. But still what Mulder and Scully are doing in that basement is important. And so maybe Jessica comes to that conclusion of like, sure, they're all cigarette smoking men up top. And this organization is bad, but me and my partner are doing something important here that does need to be continued.
And I think she first comes to appreciate James's passion for it, right? Like she starts to see how much he cares and how he thinks he's doing good work, But this also helps us, open up some more of the smaller monster goings on in our universe, which could also then potentially cross over with Dr. Frankenstein as we meet sort of like communities maybe of supernatural things happening. And then, in a few months later or something that someone from that type of monster community ends up on Dr. Frankenstein or, there's lots of potential for crossover here. But yeah, I like the idea of getting to know the sort of ground level of Prodigium in a way that doesn't, make Prodigium into the boring sort of shield type thing that it was in the Mummy.
That's always what we've been trying to avoid, and this helps us to get what we want out of it while keeping the higher ups deliberately opaque, and that's part of the complication that the characters have to deal with all the time, is their own separation from the knowledge that would make them potentially better at their jobs, but which we won't let them have because it makes the show more interesting and it doesn't spoil too much of our universe.
What about this? What if it was a 90s period piece?
Then it would take place before all of our other stories.
Because we do a lot of shaking up with Prodigium in our movies, and I don't think we want to do an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing where suddenly like the whole premise of the show gets blown open, because this is more of a Monster of the Week procedural thing.
Does that make it too on the nose, though? Joseph, what do you think of making it a 90s period piece?
Or 80s or 70s. We could
put it any time, actually.
I mean, I think if you're going to make it a period piece, just leaning into the X-Files of it and going 90s. One thing I noticed watching X-Files this time is how much it definitely started as we need Silence of the Lambs on TV. It's the aesthetic, the way it's shot, the way like shots are framed, the editing of it. It's very and obviously Scully as like young, attractive, very smart FBI agent. Like it, I could just see a TV executive being like, Silence of the Lambs is huge. I need a Silence of the Lambs. So I think let's just lean into that and also kind of shoot it like Silence of the Lambs, like kind of mirror that style of filmmaking.
We're going to go head to head now with Ryan Coogler developing his X-Files reboot. And that's, sure, we can take him.
Yeah.
He's just Ryan Coogler.
He's just Ryan Coogler. We'll be fine. I think there can also be, we talk a lot about our season finale moments. I think there should be a moment where James's character realizes how, what's the word I'm looking for? Replaceable he is as a Prodigium agent, how much they like really don't care whether he lives or dies as long as the job gets done. Mm-hmm. And in fact, maybe there is some sort of event where he is presumed dead and comes back and is shocked to learn that like nobody cared, like that could be what finally that can be kind of a radicalizing moment
him off of it,
and he could be like, yeah, we're digging deeper. He still doesn't know that Jessica's character is a spy, but is like, we need to do some spycraft to learn more about what we're doing here.
All right, that's cool and interesting. And I like that we set this in the States, so it'll be far away from like anything that Jekyll would be doing once he joins on in the late 90s.
Yeah. Although you could play with like, this allows you to bring him back to life if you want as like a shadowy superior.
Or to cast a younger actor.
Hold could be, I was thinking, Indrid would be involved. And
yes,
he's not and what's Cillian Murphy up to lately? Really? Another really easy get.
Or we cast younger actors if it's a period piece, right?
Sure.
So like we get a Cillian Murphy type. Those are easy to find.
Well, we've also established that he looks exactly the same
that's right.
In the 1500s.
I guess we can't do that. But yeah, I think Indrid Cold is like our cigarette smoking man is good.
If we, again, we're dealing with the boundless budget of our $1 billion franchise. So
I once saw Cillian Murphy do a one-man show in Brooklyn. He was very good.
How did it compare to James Urbaniak doing a one-man show?
I've never seen James Urbaniak do a one-man show. I mean, he got his start by starring in James Urbaniak did in a play called Tom Paine Based on Nothing, and I really would have liked to have seen him perform that. I'm sure he was wonderful at it, but I never saw it. Cillian Murphy was like, it was a very dramatic one-man show. There was a huge set. There was like water involved. There was like, the set was plumbed, and so there was like rain. Yeah, it was dramatic. I don't know what that has to do with what is the title of this? Because I just have Untitled X-Files at Prodigium.
I think we just call it Prodigium.
Okay.
Yeah, we could call it.
It's very Googleable.
Yeah.
Which is all that matters. It's a hashtag.
I'm trying to.
Are you trying to come up with something a little bit more obscure?
Yeah, but no, I think just Prodigium works. If something else jumps out at us, we'll shout it out.
If people don't get it, we'll just if it's too confusing for people, we'll just call it Prodigium : The origin of Batman's butler.
Deep beneath a quiet park in Philadelphia lie buried the bodies of hundreds of enslaved people. What if, one night, they all came back from the dead as zombies, but they only ate white people? My name is David Dylan Thomas, and I'm making a movie called White Meat. Join me on the journey of creating this horror comedy as we talk to filmmakers, horror buffs, and historians about all the inspirations for the movie. Listen to the White Meat Podcast wherever podcasts are found.
I got two more. I'm going to save my favorite for last. So this next one, this is maybe the one I have the least on, but I think you need some kids material.
Oh, yeah.
You got nothing for the kids.
Hook them in. Let's sell some toys.
And kids like scary stuff. They don't like super scary stuff. But there's a strong tradition of kids scary shows, anthology shows. So stick with me here. It's called Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe?
I hate the title. Oh, I hate
and it's
that
an
title.
Are You Afraid of the Dark, essentially, but in the dark universe.
I do. Yeah, it's insane. We haven't come up with that before. Yeah, and this is all. I think isn't Nickelodeon owned by our parent?
No,
company?
Nickelodeon is Viacom.
You're so right. But that's okay. They're not
you can
using
make
it.
a deal.
We'll just buy it.
Yeah, we'll just buy it. From
When
them.
have we ever cared?
Now, would this be? Do we think kids telling stories? Like these are kids that are maybe seeing all these monstrous things happen in the world, and then being like, "Well, this happened to my cousin,"
Okay.
And then we dive into the stories.
I think what happens is you have these two nerds.
Okay.
And they want to write movies.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So they sit down and they pitch each other stories that would take place in their own real world that's ripped from the headlines, right? They want to do the Law and Order of the Dark Universe, where it's like ripped from the headlines. These are the real things that happen in our world that are so scary, right?
What about this? Yes, it's like a middle school AV club.
Yeah,
it's like
they're trying to start like a YouTube channel.
Yeah, these are like kids that like wanna. They're still kids, right? They're like 13, 14 years old. They want to make movies. And they have like a club at school, but then they meet at night. They have like a late night kind of off the book session where they come up with these stories.
Okay, I'm overflowing with something here.
Okay.
All right. I think what would be fun about this is also distinguish it from Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps and other anthology series is that most of the episode is the movie that they make, right?
Sure.
Or is a story that within its world, like we can imagine, is real, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the frame story is about them pitching the story, which means, and they're a whole collective that does this, which means every episode, most of the cast of the story that is inside the envelope is played by the same kids. And these are also can be kids playing adults, right? So it's like every time, well, that's the thing is like you get to enjoy a little bit of home movies in there, right? In that you get to play a little bit with a meta narrative if you want to. Kids can handle this shit now. They're really, really smart about what they're watching on TV. And you can have a meta story within these individual unconnected stories they're telling each other and that they're creating in their little high school.
But then we also see their YouTube version of it that they would make.
What I'm saying is that we're seeing, maybe we do it like, have you ever seen Sing Street? Sing Street is a really...
I love Sing Street.
Sing Street is so good, right? So Joseph knows what I'm talking about. You have this band of high schoolers, and throughout their performances and their life as musicians, you kind of cut between what they're really capable of doing as high schoolers and this sort of dream of what the music in their head sounds like.
Okay. Right?
So I think that we can do is, and then eventually by the end of the movie, it sort of syncs up, right? But like, I think what we can do in this story is we have them pitching their story, and then we have it go into a well-produced, proper Dark Universe thing. And every once in a while, someone can say, cut, and they stop it. We cut to what it really looks like with them shooting in their houses or shooting in their high school halls.
Okay.
And they workshop it, again, in the tradition of our show, which is its namesake, right? And in those snippets, we get an idea a little bit of what these characters, who are the actors and filmmakers and storytellers, what they and their lives are really like and what's inspiring these stories, right?
I like that because as a way to make it more digestible for kids as a horror thing, you can have the monsters be real in the produced segments, but then they yell cut, and we see it's like a stuffed animal, or it's like a cardboard thing that they made, or paper mache, which kind of deflates it for the kid watching. And
it
they
makes
be like,
it a little
it's
bit
not
less
real,
scary, right?
It's a little less scary.
And then through these stories across the season, we also get to just gradually tell a little bit of the story of these kids growing up and fighting their own personal demons through these characters. Fuck, I just want to make this show now. This is one we could do. We could do this one. We have to call it something else. Anyway, Joseph, what do you think of the way I've completely hijacked your idea?
I mean, I like it. It's very different, I think, than what I brought. But I think what I brought was a rehash of a famous show. So I think making it different is more interesting. I will say there was did either of you watch, was it called The Midnight Society? Is that what it was called? Mike Flanagan had a teen show on Netflix a couple years ago.
I remember this. Yeah.
It was like the Midnight Club or the Midnight Society or something.
I think it was Midnight
No,
Club.
Midnight Mass is something else.
Midnight Society is what they're actually called in Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe?
Yes.
Sorry,
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Dark, yes.
It's about a bunch of teens in a hospice. Like they're all dying and they meet late at night and tell each other scary stories. And it is the thing where like the kids also, the same actors are also performing the scary stories within the stories.
It is the Midnight Club, yeah.
Damn.
The
Scooped
Midnight
by
Club.
Mike Flanagan.
Now, he got canceled after one season on that, which, fair enough. I'm huge fan of Mike Flanagan. It wasn't his best. But I liked that cast. So I do think maybe you could just bring that whole cast over. They've shown they can do this kind of thing.
Yeah,
they're good at teen shows.
We pick that up. It's both Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe and the Midnight Club. It's sort of a requel to the Midnight Club. But yeah, I do like this idea of, the kids are the actors in it, and we get to see both the fully produced version and the DIY Be Kind Rewind version,
Yeah.
I think that's really a really fun idea. And then it gets to be a horror anthology series for kids, gets them into the dark universe early, so that we can keep making that money from them once all of our current fan base ages out of it.
And I think we make a plushie of the monster from every episode, and there's a subscription you can sign up to where you get every week. They send you the plushie from the episode that came out that week.
Oh yeah, join the Midnight Club.
Yeah. That's a great way for us to sell a lot of products at a consistent level
at the theme parks, right?
Yeah, but you can only buy them individually if you go to the theme parks.
Yeah, otherwise you have to have the subscription.
Got to do the subscription service.
Oh, this is perfect, Joseph. You keep making us money, and that's why you're the head of our streaming.
I'm any day now. I'll get the check of my percentage on that. Sure,
it's in the mail. I swear. Maybe we have your routing number wrong. We'll check.
We'll check with accounting. Somebody's who am I not paying back here?
By the way, you brought up theme parks. I went to the Halloween Horror Nights. They had a haunted house that was built around their dark universe thing that they're trying to build in the theme parks.
Yes,
absolutely incoherent. They really, what they need is a couple guys who've been working on this a while, because there was like brides of Frankensteins with crossbows fighting vampire. It was
they got to
so
get
confusing.
us in there. Come on, guys. At least put us on the theme parks. We are visiting the Dark Universe theme park in September.
A little bit in the off season. And this week, Dalton, we have to have time. We'll have done this by the time you all hear this, but they have put those portals up in Rockefeller Center.
Yes.
You got to let me know when you're getting off work someday.
Yeah, we're going to
go visit the portals, get some pictures, take a pictures.
Yeah.
And
make
dream about our upcoming visit.
Yes, we will give a full report on the Dark Universe. You just have to wait until late September, and we will give you our full report.
Maybe be one of the things that we do to stall for time while we launch the next section of the show. Joseph, you say your favorite pitch was still coming up next. Do you want to go to that, or do you have anything more you want to add?
I have my very last pitch. I've saved my favorite for last. Now, this is the most avant-garde one. This is maybe really pushing what a television show is, but I'm excited about it. This is going to have to exist, I think, a little bit outside of your chronology, outside of the universe. I think this is going to be from a universe just next door. It's called The Invisible Family. And it is a family sitcom with John C. Reilly's Invisible Man as the dad. And it's a pretty straightforward maybe like 80s, 90s style family sitcom, except the entire family is invisible, and so they are not on screen. We just hear their voices. We see like plates floating through air. We see things get knocked over. Obviously, like their neighbors or friends are played by visible actors. But I think a lot of this show, we are staring at an empty house as like we hear their voices and things like move around, maybe a little bit, like a bed sags as someone sits on it. The invisible family.
I feel like this is a great opportunity, potentially, let me know what you think about this, for John C. Reilly to reunite with his frequent collaborators, Tim and Eric.
This has a too many cooks energy to it.
Well, because they also did a sitcom parody. I can't remember the name of it. It was like one season on Adult Swim. And yeah, reuniting John C. Reilly with them to do this very high concept sitcom take, I think would, because I also think with the empty frame kind of aesthetic, maybe the 11 to 12 minute Adult Swim
I was going to say, I think this is
the way to go.
It's exactly what I was about to say. I think that we go for 11 minutes, and that it's a season where we will just it's weekly for a while. And if you want, once a year, we'll stream the whole season. It'll just be nobody on screen for 3 or 4 hours.
You do the sort of condensed version of classic sitcom plots, right? Like,
yes.
Having to, I have a date with my wife, but I also am hanging out with the guys, you know? And like none of all of his friends are visible, but they don't comment on the fact that he's invisible.
Right. Okay, so you have
that's really important. I don't think any of the visible people react at all to them being invisible.
But they also can't see him.
Well,
right?
It's like a polite thing, right? Like it feels rude to mention that he's invisible, so they all just have to, only occasionally when none of them are in the room and they're really, really certain that none of them are in their room, they're like, it's just really awkward that we can't, like, yeah, I know. And it's like, are you sure they're not? Okay, all right. Hey, how's it going, Jack? But yeah, there's the idea of like you have like the teenager, one of the teenage kids has like a girl or a guy over, right? But they're not supposed to, right? And the parents come home. There's a whole thing of having to hide the date, but the date's the one who's visible.
Yeah.
So how do you? This is a fun idea. I like this.
I think the mom is maybe just thinking of comic actors with great voices. Pamela, what's her last name from Better
Adlon?
Things? Yes, Pamela Adlon has just such a great voice. I think she'd play well against John C. Reilly.
There should definitely be an invisible baby, right? We need our
Absolutely.
Maggie.
Yeah.
That they're constantly misplacing.
Yes. And even though it's unnecessary, because usually you do this because of the impracticality and entirely reasonable rules about how much you can employ a baby, they always have twins. We will still use twins for voices, just for the credits to get the full house thing going. It will still be 2 babies providing the voice, taking turns of the invisible baby.
I think the stinger of the season, maybe the series, is just when all of the friends and neighbors have been kind of politely overlooking the fact that they're invisible all this time. But just we linger on his friends hanging out without them, and one of them's like, do you guys ever think about the fact that he's just naked?
That the whole family
is hanging out naked
the
all
whole
the time.
family's just naked all the time, because otherwise their clothes would be visible. So he's just been hanging with them naked.
There's a lot of like his friends go to clap him on the back and just whiffing right through because he's not or they hand him something and then it just drops to the ground, you know. I think like there should be lots of like background stuff, like if John C. Reilly and Pamela Adlon are talking to each other, you hear the kids just like run into each other in the background, just like collide with each other, and you know, we don't really make a big deal because that's happening all the time for them. They're constantly running into stuff and falling down the stairs. Yeah,
I think this should still be filmed live in front of a live audience.
Oh,
I think we just have to
yes. That will make all the invisibility tricks that much more impressive. The audience, it'll have to be run like a magic show.
They have to be practical, yeah.
Yeah,
I think they should be practical anyway. I'm uninterested.
Right? Oh, I was thinking we'd do it in front of a live studio audience with all of the actors on set completely nude, and then we digitally edit them out of the final. Yeah, we just edit them out of the final broadcast.
Well, the live audience gets to see when Jack's dick and balls inevitably get covered in some kind of fine powder, that we will have a prosthetic that is very lifelike in the set that we then blur out on Adult Swim.
Yeah, I think it might even...
As John C. Reilly says, not again.
Not again. Oh.
I do think practical effects, and it's always very obvious that it's just a thin wire. Like everything's moving as if it's just being, marionetted along.
Oh yeah, I think the effects should be basically visible. I think there shouldn't be a lot of an attempt to hide what is causing these.
Yeah,
I think it makes them more interesting if like things are just being pulled on like kind of visible fishing wire.
I think there should be a scene where one of the kids walks in on their parents having sex, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And he's like, "Don't worry, I didn't see anything."
I also love the idea of there being a character like Kramer or whoever who everyone always applauds just whenever they come in, but the door just opens, the applause sign goes on, so everyone knows to applaud. But there's been no other sign on screen of which character has walked in the door, except that we know that when the door opens and everyone applauds, that's Jimmy.
Yeah.
And then you just gotta wait for the applause to die down, and then you hear the voice.
Oh, there's an invisible dog too, right?
Oh, there has to be.
We definitely have an invisible dog.
And you don't have to worry about training the dog to do the cute stuff that you need a sitcom dog to do. There will be no practical dog.
There's an empty fish tank full of invisible fish.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we can definitely...
One day they have termites, but they're invisible termites. Or ants, but they're invisible ants. And it's that much scarier. And that's when we start to crank up the eeriness dial a little bit, as you would in a Tim and Eric type thing.
By the end, this is some sort of weird psychological horror experiment.
And you can soften it at the end with a cute moment between Jack and his invisible wife, and with them being like, "You look just like you did the day I married you." Aww, credits.
Perfect. Yeah, this is the best way for us to capitalize on the comedic nature of our Invisible Man series by turning it into a literal live audience sitcom.
Yeah, so that's what I have for you. 5 titles on a Word doc.
This diversifies our streaming thing so much better than like Marvel's streaming slate, where everything's kind of just those are sort of comedy action.
Sure. And like they didn't even successfully do what they had done originally in like the early phases of the movies, where like these are all superhero movies right? At the end, those shows were all like, with the exception of like WandaVision and I suppose arguably Loki, they all have like little different flavors. What a noise I just made. Should I make that sound again?
I'm sure the listeners love it.
It's like these are 5 and 6 with your additional your Universal's Next Top Monster pitch, very different shows from one another that could potentially appeal to different audiences, with a lot of the potential for the kind of audience crossover that you expect from a franchise, where you will have the obsessives who will try something that they might not ordinarily have tried because it's set in our universe.
Yeah.
And but just to recap, Dr. Frankenstein,
MD.
Dr. Frankenstein, MD. That's right. Graveyard Smash.
Yep.
And we have Universal's Next Top Monster.
And Paul Hollywood presents Dark Universe Baking.
Right. I mean, we got to have spinoffs that can run during the off season of these, right? And then we can have our little web series, like how a Top Chef now, you have not just Last Chance Kitchen, but also The Dish with Kish.
Well, and also with Dr. Frankenstein MD, we have the possibility for the Bride of Frankenstein MD spinoff series.
Right. That'll be our Mrs. Columbo. And we'll also have Kate Mulgrew in it. What was the one in the middle there?
We had
Prodigium.
We have Prodigium, and we have Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe? And then finally the Invisible Family. These are all super fun ideas, and I know we expected nothing less. So
yes, this is why you're in charge of the television division.
This is why you make so much more than we do off of. I would think right now.
Yeah, your check is definitely in the mail. You will be getting paid.
I'm waiting for it. Listen, I take this responsibility very seriously. I show up to work with my 5 titles on a Word document, and I expect to get paid for it.
Yes. No, we're all working on percentage of the back end, right? And Dalton and I each get 20% of the back end, and you get 40% of the back end, which is twice as much.
There you go.
As the 0 that we take home.
But we do have the Kugler deal, where in actually 2 years, all of your ownership reverts to us. So We do
that's like the reverse.
The
Coogler
reverse
deal.
Coogler deal. Yeah,
the reverse Coogler deal.
Where we own all of your stuff.
Everybody go see Sinners. It's so fucking good.
I'm excited to see. I have not seen it yet, but I plan to.
I haven't yet either.
I see a movie in the theater about once a year. I'm not a movie goer, but I do plan to maybe make Sinners that movie this year.
Well, yeah, you're at one of the for realsies LA IMAX screens that you should make a date to do it.
Yeah, I gotta do that. Well, Joseph, thank you for coming back on Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe? This was an absolute pleasure. You know, the thing is, Marvel really opened up their TV thing after Endgame, right? To kind of keep the momentum going. We're about to wrap up things with Hell on Earth. And so this gives us a lot of, we can have some of these shows, I think, running already once Hell on Earth airs to keep people on the Dark Universe hook while whatever comes next gets started.
Yeah, and you know what? Because like maybe we're now at this point deep into seasons 4 and 5 of Teen Wolf and Lady Boofula. And it's time for some of those shows to start wrapping up and becoming the new blood takes over.
That's right.
We're going for new audiences. The people who grew up with Teen Wolf, maybe now they're ready for Prodigium. Maybe now they're ready for the Invisible Family.
No one's ready for the Invisible Family.
The Invisible Family is going to become the big crossover hit. I'm telling you. It's the one.
I mean, The Invisible Man, such a big hit movie. People are definitely going to tune in for the spinoff series. Joseph, do you have anything new that you would like to plug and tell our listeners about?
I kind of shoved in the plugs throughout. So yeah, the best worst is my new show with my wife Meg, where we watch the worst and best of classic television. We have our LA detective series on Audible is having its third, possibly final season. We'll see. It comes out sometime in May. I really should know that date, but just catch up now.
And that's unlicensed, right?
Unlicensed. Yep. Some of my favorite stuff we've ever written. Welcome to Night Vale continues to happen. We are doing another live tour, our first in a couple years.
Nice.
This summer, starting in Newark, is our first stop, and we're writing that right now. And I'm really excited about it.
Cool.
I think that's
a New York stop.
All the stuff.
We'll see you at the New York stop. We'll get some tickets.
You guys can hit up the Bell House or some such.
We are doing the Bell House. I'm trying to remember if that's in the same run. I am only at like the first 4 shows because I live in LA and have a toddler, so I just don't tour anymore. But we're going all over. Welcome to nightvale.com/live, and you can see we're all over the country.
Amazing.
Right on.
Well, thank you again for joining us.
Hey, yes, that was Joseph Fink's 5 new TV shows, plus one more.
Totally blind for us. We didn't know what we were getting into, but
what a treat.
All great ideas.
It's just so strange to be like, it's almost like a different show.
Yeah.
It's almost like the show we initially intended to make.
Yeah, where we didn't do hours and hours and hours of homework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Refreshing
that's
it is.
It's a little refreshing. If only every episode were like that. But it's good because between COVID and vacation and moving and now Hell on Earth, I think we needed a little refresher like that. By the way, I think at the end of Field of Nightmares, we said in 2 episodes we had a returning champ we were really excited about. That was actually him. It was actually one episode because our other guests fell through.
We had to swap the schedule around
so
a little bit.
We swapped things around. So we don't know who our next guest is going to be.
But we have a lot of irons in the fire right now.
Yes, we just got to get the schedules to line up. But in the meantime, Dylan, you have an event you wanted to talk about.
I do. I'm super excited about this. A while back, when we did the Mystery Men episode, I mentioned on the air that if people were interested, we would do a reading of the much longer draft with a lot of the stuff that, including the complete characters and subplots that were cut in order to make that a tighter
including
script.
Everyone's favorite, Sophie from Village of the Damned.
Which is why we're calling this Mystery Men, the Sophie Cut. We're doing a reading on the Discord. On May 26th, this Memorial Day here in the States, at 1 p.m. Eastern, trying to pick a time that will work across the time zones of our listeners. So it's in the evening for the UK, it's in the morning on the West Coast here, and for us it'll be in the just afternoon, 1 p.m. And I'm just excited to do it. We're gonna do it like we do readings on in the Discord, where we'll divvy out parts. If you want to get involved, please shout out. We'll figure out an equitable way to pass out roles. I do believe we will have at least one special guest to do a reading, to do some of the reading with us.
You can also just listen if you don't want to participate in like the actual reading. You can just listen along.
There won't be
and
enough
hear
characters for everybody to read regardless.
Yeah.
So,
and remember, we have a 7-day free trial. So if you do want to just start a free trial so that you can hear the reading, if you want to stick around after that, we would love to have you. But we are not like, if there's ever an event like this that you want to take part on but can't afford the Patreon, we have the free trial. We're not going to yell at you for joining and doing this and then canceling.
Yeah, we're just happy to have you.
Yeah.
It'll be a joyful experience. So we're going to start preparing for that. And yeah, come join us on the Discord if you'd like to be a part of that. You can join us at patreon.com/Dylan and Dalton. 7 free days, and then as little as $5 a month to get access to the Discord, the monthly bonus pod. And then above that, you get stuff like shout-outs on the show, such as the ones I'm about to do. We want to give a big thank you to our executive producers. These are patrons who support the show at the $15 a month level and therefore get their name shouted out on every episode we record during their time there. This is Brent Dreyer, Brian Egan, Mar Bendlar, Matt Thackeray, Sunmot, and Mike Lee Whiplash. Thank you so much. And a big thanks to our studio executives. These are the folks who not only buy themselves a nice little shout on every episode of the show and the bonus pod, but they also get to pick one of the movies we do in our studio mandates section on the bonus pod. This is Alyssa, Bill French, Beerus, Joe Valiant, Jonathan Morgantini, Moose, the real Nick Morton, Rich Mays, Sabrina, and Tom Webster. Thank you so much for making this show possible.
We've been doing a lot of fun studio mandates over there, and some of them have ended up canon, as we saw in Field of Nightmares. I'm obsessed with it.
Can't get enough.
Recently, we've done
the Bandit.
Smokey and the Bandit, Into the Woods, Snow White: A Tale of Terror, Carnival of Souls. Our next one is it's something neither of us have seen.
It is
that we're excited to see.
It is a Wes Craven movie.
Shocker, yes.
Shocker. A Wes Craven movie neither of us has seen before.
And if you want to join at that level, you can name literally any movie, and we will integrate it into the dark universe somehow. Although, don't expect to hear it next month because we have kind of a long waiting list.
Kind of a long waiting list right now. But we are going to be experimenting with some changes to how we're doing the bonus pod. The format for right now is going to stay the same.
Yes, we want to keep refining things as we get our feet under ourselves to make sure.
We can't add any more hours to our day.
Yes, unfortunately. Until we're making enough that I can quit my job and do this full time.
And I'm just going to do it full time anyway until I go broke.
But you also have a child.
But if you'd like me not to go broke, please consider subscribing to patreon.com/Dylan and Dalton. Please tell your friends about the show.
Yes, definitely. As we come up to Hell on Earth, we really want to make a big bang with Hell on Earth. Oh, the other thing. We haven't really clarified this, but while we're sort of a few weeks out from Hell on Earth, maybe we can announce this and cut it if you don't want to do this. But we had talked in the past about having all of our listeners, not just patrons, but all of our listeners vote on their top 10 favorite episodes of the show that we could do a marathon of leading up to the release of Hell on Earth.
Right. So back when we were about to do Death's Door, we did a marathon on YouTube of the director's cuts. That means just the narrative portions of the entirety of Phase 3. And so, we thought it would be really great, inspired by an event they did right before the finale of Star Trek: The Next Generation back in 1994. If we did a viewer's choice marathon, a listener's choice marathon in this case, where we could we'll set up a poll somewhere. Y'all can rank your favorite eps, and then the lineup for that marathon, which I think we would do just the top 5 would be the ones that air. Maybe we do 10. Tell us what you think, I guess.
Yeah.
That would be a surprise. So you get to not only will you be listening to the episodes of the community, having fun in the chat with people, reliving some of your favorite Dark Universe moments, but also there'd be a little bit of mystery and suspense as to what the top ranked episode is going to be.
Yeah, and this would be a live marathon the day before Hell on Earth comes out. Revisit your favorite moments of the Dark Universe with all the other fans in the chat.
We will announce the date for that as soon as we've locked down the date that Hell on Earth will air.
Yes, and we will also put the poll up, so keep an eye on our social channels at Dark Universe Pod on Instagram and darkuniversepod.bsky.social on Blue Sky, and we will post information about that. But I think that's all of the logistics out of the way. We will be back in 2 weeks with some guest.
Yeah, another guest while we're picking away at this script.
We got to start that.
We really have to. I mean, I have a lot of ideas set aside.
We got to start
but
writing.
We have not had time to do our typical planning episode yet, so the script so far does not exist, other than a couple pages that Dalton wrote
I wrote
already.
a cold open.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we love you all.
We love you so much.
Thanks for tuning back in. And until next time, stay afraid of the dark universe.